At my sister's wedding, I was ordered to stand near the wall so you wouldn't ruin the family photos. My seat, claimed by her husband's aunts +1. Then I walked up to the gift table, picked back my envelope, and proclaimed, "Don't worry, I'll stay out of the frame forever." She came rushing as I proceeded. I, 32M, never thought my own sister's wedding would be the place where I'd finally understand how little I meant to my family. But sometimes the universe has a twisted sense of timing. Growing up, my sister was always the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect friends, perfect everything. I was the middle kid who just existed in her shadow. Our parents made sure I knew my place early on, second best, always. When she announced her engagement to someone from a wealthy family, the worship intensified. Suddenly, everything revolved around creating the perfect wedding for their perfect daughter. The morning of the wedding, I arrived at the venue early to help with setup. I'd spent months listening to endless planning sessions, offering suggestions that were dismissed, and watching my parents empty their savings for this day. I'd even bought an expensive gift, a crystal vase set worth more than my monthly rent. Looking back, I should have seen the signs when my input on everything from flowers to seating arrangements was ignored. The ceremony went smoothly. I sat in the third row while distant relatives occupied the front seats reserved for family. During photos, I noticed the photographer kept positioning me at the edges, sometimes asking me to step back further. I assumed it was just standard procedure for large group shots. The reception is where everything unraveled. I walked into the beautifully decorated hall, scanning for my assigned table. According to the seating chart, I was supposed to be at table 7 with some family friends. But when I reached the table, an elderly woman I'd never seen before was sitting in my chair. Her place card clearly showed a different name. I approached her politely and mentioned there might be a mix-up with the seating. She looked at me blankly and called over a younger woman who appeared to be her daughter. The daughter informed me that they were told this was their table and they weren't moving. When I explained that the seat was assigned to me, she shrugged and suggested I find somewhere else to sit. I looked around the packed venue. Every chair was occupied. The only empty spaces were a few spots near the kitchen doors where the staff was constantly moving back and forth. I stood there for several minutes, feeling increasingly uncomfortable as other guests stared. That's when my sister approached me. Instead of addressing the seating issue, she pulled me aside and delivered the blow that would change everything between us forever. She told me that there had been some last-minute changes and asked if I could stand near the wall for the remaining photos. She explained that the photographer suggested it would create better composition for the family portraits. Her exact words were that I should stay near the wall so I wouldn't ruin the family photos. She said it casually, like she was asking me to pass the salt. The way she looked at me when she said it, like I was an inconvenience she had to manage, that's when something inside me snapped. I asked her about my seat, and she waved dismissively toward the kitchen area, saying I could find somewhere to stand or sit over there. She mentioned that her husband's family had some last-minute additions and they needed to accommodate important guests. The woman in my seat was apparently the aunt's +1, someone who'd decided to attend just that morning. Standing there in my best suit, holding a wedding gift that cost me a month of careful budgeting, watching my sister prioritize strangers over her own brother, I felt 20 years of accumulated resentment crystallize into perfect clarity. This wasn't about seating arrangements or photo composition. This was about my place in this family, and apparently, that place was nowhere. I excused myself and walked directly to the gift table. It was an elegant display near the entrance, covered with beautifully wrapped presents and envelopes. Mine was easy to spot. A thick envelope with my carefully written note congratulating the happy couple and wishing them well in their marriage. I picked up my envelope and slipped it into my jacket pocket. Then I turned around to find my sister had followed me, probably wondering why I wasn't following her instructions to disappear into the background. The moment our eyes met, I made my announcement loud enough for the nearby guests to hear. I told her not to worry, that I would stay out of the frame forever. I said it with a smile, the kind of smile you give when you're finally free from pretending everything is okay. Her face went white. She immediately started rushing toward me, but I was already walking toward the exit. She called my name, her voice carrying that note of panic you hear when someone realizes they've pushed too far. But I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. The drive home felt surreal. I kept expecting my phone to buzz with calls or messages, but it remained silent. I spent the evening thinking about all the times I'd been treated as an afterthought, all the moments when my feelings were dismissed because maintaining family harmony was more important than basic respect. Update 1. The silence lasted exactly 3 days. Then the flood began. My mother called first, screaming at me for embarrassing the family and ruining my sister's special day. She demanded I apologize immediately and return the gift. When I calmly explained what had happened, she dismissed it as a misunderstanding and accused me of being dramatic. According to her, family members should just go along with things to keep the peace. My father sent a text message telling me I was being childish and needed to fix this situation. He said my sister was devastated and that I'd created unnecessary drama over something trivial. He suggested I was jealous of her happiness and needed to grow up. Extended family members started reaching out, all parroting the same narrative. I was the problem. I was the one who created drama. I was the one who needed to apologize. Nobody seemed interested in hearing my side of the story. But the most telling call came from my sister herself. She finally contacted me 4 days after the wedding, not to apologize, but to demand I explain my behavior. She accused me of trying to steal attention on her special day. When I reminded her about the seating situation and her comment about the photos, she claimed I was exaggerating and taking things out of context. She insisted that asking me to stand near the wall was just a suggestion, not an order. She said the seating mix-up wasn't her fault, and I should have just dealt with it quietly. She accused me of being oversensitive and making everything about myself. The conversation lasted nearly an hour, and not once did she acknowledge how her actions might have hurt me. Every response was a justification or deflection. She was the victim in this scenario, not me. Her wedding was ruined because of my selfishness, not because of how she treated me. I realized during that call that I'd been hoping for something that would never come. I'd been waiting for recognition, for acknowledgement, for basic consideration. But I was never going to get it from people who saw me as a supporting character in their story. Update 2. 2 weeks after the wedding, I made a decision that surprised even me. I started limiting contact with my family. Not cutting them off completely, but establishing boundaries I'd never had before. When my mother called with her weekly guilt trips about family unity, I kept the conversations short and surface level. When my father sent his usual messages about fixing the situation, I responded with brief acknowledgments that didn't commit to anything. When my sister reached out, I was polite but distant. The change in dynamic was immediate and dramatic. Suddenly, I was getting more attention from my family than I'd received in years. But it wasn't the kind of attention I'd wanted. It was panic. They were realizing that their designated emotional punching bag was no longer available for duty. My sister tried a different approach. She called crying, saying she missed me and wanted to work things out. She suggested we meet for coffee to talk things through. When I agreed, I thought maybe we were finally going to have an honest conversation about our relationship. I was wrong. The coffee meeting was an ambush. She brought our mother along for emotional backup. They tag-teamed me for 2 hours, alternating between guilt trips and manipulation tactics. I was ruining the family. I was being stubborn. I was holding grudges over nothing. I needed to be the bigger person and forgive. But the most revealing moment came when I asked a simple question. I asked my sister to explain exactly what she thought I should have done differently at her wedding. Should I have smiled while standing in the kitchen area? Should I have thanked her for the privilege of being asked to hide during family photos? Should I have graciously accepted being treated like an unwelcome guest at my own sister's wedding? Her response was telling. She said I should have understood that weddings are stressful and things don't always go perfectly. She said I should have been more flexible and supportive. She said that as her brother, my job was to help make her day special, not create problems. That's when I understood the fundamental issue. In her mind, I existed to serve her needs. My feelings, my dignity, my basic human worth, none of that mattered when weighed against her convenience. I was supposed to be grateful for whatever scraps of consideration she chose to give me. I finished my coffee, thanked them for their time, and left. I haven't had a meaningful conversation with either of them since. Update 3. 6 months have passed since the wedding, and the dust has finally settled into a new normal. My relationship with my family has fundamentally changed, and honestly, it's been liberating. I've discovered what life looks like when you're not constantly trying to earn love and acceptance from people who were never planning to give it freely. I've started investing in friendships and relationships where mutual respect is the baseline, not something I have to beg for. My sister got married, went on her honeymoon, and settled into her new life. From what I hear through the family grapevine, she rarely mentions me anymore. I'm no longer part of her story, which is exactly what I wanted. The funny thing is, neither are our parents, really. Now that she has her husband's wealthy family to impress, our parents have been relegated to the same secondary status I always occupied. The irony isn't lost on me. They spent so many years elevating her above everyone else that they forgot to teach her how to value the people who actually loved her unconditionally. Now they're experiencing the same dismissive treatment I endured for decades, and they're struggling to understand why she doesn't prioritize them anymore. My mother occasionally sends messages about family gatherings or holidays, but they're perfunctory invitations rather than genuine outreach. She knows I won't cause drama anymore, but she also knows I won't pretend everything is fine. I attend some events, skip others, and nobody comments either way. I've become a polite stranger in my own family, which is somehow more honest than the relationship we had before. The gift envelope is still in my desk drawer. I never returned it, never cashed the check inside. It sits there as a reminder of the moment I chose my self-respect over their approval. Sometimes I consider throwing it away, but it serves as a useful benchmark. It reminds me of what I'm worth and what I'm not willing to accept anymore. People ask me if I regret walking out of the wedding. The answer is complicated. I regret that it took me 32 years to stand up for myself. I regret that I wasted so much energy trying to earn something that was never available. I regret that my sister and I will probably never have the relationship I once hoped for. But I don't regret leaving. I don't regret taking back my gift. I don't regret refusing to apologize for expecting basic human decency. Most importantly, I don't regret learning that family isn't automatically sacred just because you share DNA. Real family treats you with respect, considers your feelings, and makes room for you at the table, literally and figuratively. The woman who took my seat at the wedding probably forgot about that night years ago. But for me, it became the moment I realized I deserved better than the crumbs I'd been accepting my entire life. Sometimes the most important lessons come from the most unexpected places, even if that place is standing alone near a gift table at your sister's wedding, finally understanding your worth. I still hope someday my sister will understand what she lost when she chose appearances over relationships. But I'm not waiting for that anymore. I'm too busy building a life where I'm valued for who I am, not tolerated despite it. That's worth more than any wedding photo could ever be.